Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Crown and today we are going to have some more stories that I hope that you will enjoy. But before we start, it would be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now, without further ado, let's go! First story. Entitled Grandfather Gets Police Called on Him at Granddaughter's Wedding. A little backstory. My grandfather is a terrible person, a complete narcissist and an entitled prick. To put it into perspective, the first time he met my grandmother, she was on a date with another man, and the entitled grandfather barreled in, basically kicked the man out and continued on as if he was the one she was there to see. I have heard a number of horror stories about how he would beat my grandmother, mother and uncle. He would cut people out of his life for the pettiest reason, including his own children. All around a terrible person. So on to the story. My sister got married a couple of years ago, pre-COVID, and the ceremony was at her and my mother's church. Started at 4 and lasted an hour. The reception was held at a hotel on the other side of the town. So my sister decided to have it start at 6. This is important, so keep that in mind. Everyone made it to the reception just fine, and things are going well. My sister and her husband show up right on time and start going table to table speaking with guests, as is customary. And this is when the entitled grandfather started acting up. My family was seated right in front of the wedding party, which I was at. I heard my grandfather start talking and tuned in on the conversation. He says,
"Dinner was supposed to be served at 6. It's now 6:15.
Side note, it was never stated anywhere the dinner was at 6, just that the reception started at that time. Mom tells him that the bride and groom are still talking to their guests. Once they are done, food will be served.
I don't care. I was told dinner was at 6. So where is my food?"
Then Anne tells him, "Can't you wait for just 5 more minutes? The bride and the groom only have a couple more tables to go to. Then we can eat." Mom says, "Can you keep your voice down? This is the bride's big day. We don't need you making a scene." The entitled grandfather, apparently not appreciating that last comment, says,
"Don't you tell me what to do. You may be a grown woman, but I will not hesitate to beat you."
At this point, I can see this is going downhill fast, and I start getting up to see if I can help somehow. But before I get a chance to, I hear Anne speak up. "If you're going to be a jerk, then just leave. We don't need your attitude today."
"Well, fine then."
He was yelling so loudly I saw people at the other end of the rather large dining hall turn to look. Somehow neither my sister nor her husband seemed to notice. The entitled grandfather stands up and starts marching towards the exit. Mom reminds the aunt that he's supposed to do the father-daughter dance with the bride. Our dad passed away months before this, and the bride had her heart set on having some male figure in the family do the dance. Mom and aunt follow him out of the dining hall and into the main foyer of the venue. I, thinking on my feet, immediately closed all the doors into the foyer, so no one inside could see what happened next. As I'm closing the final door, I hear Mom and Aunt trying to talk him into staying. But he doesn't say a word. And right as I turn around to try and help the situation, he pulls up his fist and punches my aunt right in the face. He does this right in front of the security guard. And without another word, he turns around and leaves, leaving his wife at the table and my aunt leaning against the wall while rubbing her cheek. The security guard calls the company he works for and asks him to send an officer to his location. Mom says, "Please, no cops. I cannot let him ruin the bride's big day." I should note here that this security guard was not hired by us, but instead by the venue. Venue policy is that if the security guard sees any signs of illegal activity, including assault, he has to call the police. The police showed up, and Anne decides not to press charges. But the police insist that they still talk to the entitled grandfather and explain the severity of the situation. While mom and aunt worked this out, she ended up pressing charges eventually. I ran inside to explain to the bride that the entitled grandfather left, and I offered to do the father-daughter dance in his stead. After the reception, we gave the bride the entire story. She was furious, but was thankful that nobody saw any of this happen and was so supportive of getting the police involved. Next story. This will be a long one, so grab some popcorn. Let me start with a little background. Me, 28 male, and my wife, 26 female, married 3 years ago and have been together for 6 years. When we met, I was already in my 3rd year of college for a special branch of a very productive industry, something like the US Army. You go to a different country for a few months, do some really dangerous jobs, get paid a lot, come back a few months and so on. In the beginning, I was going away for 6, 8 or even 10 months in order to promote as fast as possible. Now I earn around 4 years of medium salary in my country in just 3 months. It's a hard job, but I love it. My wife was very supportive, and I always knew that it's very hard for her to have this kind of lifestyle. I always tried to spoil her and compensate for my time spent away from her with tons of gifts and trips to exotic places. 2 years ago, when I came back home after an extended contract, I had to stay almost 2 more months because all flights and borders got shut down during COVID but got 20% extra salary during this time. She told me she cannot take it anymore. She goes crazy alone at home and she has nothing to do. She lost her job during COVID and did not want to work again after that, which I fully support her because I wanted her to be happy and money was not a problem. I was petrified, and at first I believed she wanted to break up. Then she continued with, "I love you so much and I want you to give me a baby so I can take care of him and have a little bit of you when you are gone on contract." So we did get pregnant. I was the happiest man alive, and everything changed. I was a man now. I was a father. I was on top of the world. I was going with her to every doctor appointment, and during my time away, I was asking for echo sounds. The purse had no complications, and everything went amazing. 1 month later, I went on another contract to make some money that should cover every need for our little baby. Halfway during this contract, I received a text from my wife that shattered my life. The text was short and simple, and I would never forget those 4 words that sent me into the deepest depression I had ever had. I want a divorce. I did not understand. I tried to call her to find out what happened and nothing. After a few days of talking back and forth, she said, "I want a divorce so I can be with the love of my life." I was already preparing my suitcase because I made a request to my company to send me back as an emergency. When I got home, she and the baby were gone. 2 weeks later, I was in court to settle the divorce. During this, I found out that she had a lover for well over 4 years and she plans to marry him as soon as the divorce is done. Now, the laws in my country are different, and I know that my first priority should be a really good lawyer. My wife had a really bad one, and she decided to speak by herself without the help of a lawyer most of the time. Her whole idea was, I'm a woman and he's never home. Well, even if the law usually favors women in my country, cheating is considered to be a breach of contract, wedding contract. And she wanted to take full custody of our children in order for me to pay child support. I was not letting this happen. I spoke with my lawyer and an accountant, and it seems that I only had to pay child support from my base salary. My danger bonus is not included in child support because it is for my life risk and mine alone. And because the company pays less taxes on the danger bonuses, I have a lot of them. And my base salary is just around 10% of my income. When she found out that she would take almost nothing from child support, and I gave her the option of me taking full custody of the child with a no-contact rule, and I will never ask her for child support. She agreed in a second. Basically, she agreed to get out of our lives. We even changed the birth certificate of the child as me, the father, and a blank space for the mother. She gave up any kind of claim on the baby. During the trial, her lover was asked to come as a witness, and the idiot agreed. He's an AliExpress version of Andrew Tate, an alpha man who treats women badly, and this seems to get to her, and has a pretty good income. He has a small company, less than half of my salary, but he is always home, and it still is a lot for our country. Now, during the trial, he said they cheated behind my back for 3 years, and that the baby is his, and that she tricked me to make her a baby in order not to find out about her cheating. He said all this just to make me feel horrible, I guess, because this is actually kinda illegal, something like alienating the love and the other legal terms my lawyer explained to me. He basically said I knew they were married, but I decided to ruin the marriage. Now, at this point, the child situation was already done and an agreement was signed. The judge asked my wife if it was true, and she said yes, and ordered the DNA test just to confirm. After the DNA test that confirms what they said, the judge said that she will let me cancel the agreement and settle the situation again with my wife now that the child is not biologically mine. I said no, Your Honor. This child is mine, and I want to keep him. The judge was stunned for a minute, but then she said, well, if the agreement is a valid contract and since you don't want to avoid it, then Mr. L, you are a father and no one can take that child away from you. In my country, it doesn't matter who's the biological parent. It matters who is a parent in a document. And since he knew he was the father from the beginning and did not come to the hospital to declare it, he automatically cancelled all his paternal claims. Now that the divorce is over, I got my baby, and my wife is out of my life. First thing I did was hire 3 babysitters to work 8 hours a day so my child has 24/7 someone to stay with him 24/7, and I have time to prepare for my revenge. I started 2 separate companies with the help of an online assistant from India. You can hire them kinda cheap and they do whatever you need online. This guy made 2 super professional companies, one in industrial credits, give money to business for a lower rate than banks, and the second was a copycat of my ex-company, but this one was in the same city as his. Both were made just for one client, my ex-wife lover. My assistant started sending tons of ads of my credit company to him. Emails, targeted Google/Facebook ads, and so on. I was sure that he knows that if he needs money, this is a place he can take a lot with low rates. Next, I made a lot of advertisement for the second company, but the company had only the machines and the rented space and only one worker, the cleaning lady. Every time someone calls for the company services, they immediately get declined because we are overbooked. My ex-lover, let's call him D, was one of them. Multiple times actually, and he goes mad every time he gets rejected because he sees how big the competition is. Now it was a time to give him the bait. Because my company had some problems in the main country, I don't even know in which country this company was registered, they changed the management and wanted to make some fast profit, so the regional manager wanted to sell some of the equipment. When he heard this, he started calling and sending emails to buy them out. The response was something like, we are an international company, we cannot sell the brand, but we can sell some equipment. It was illegal for me to sell the company without showing him the accountant's data, which was empty, but equipment I could sell just with a simple contract. He wanted the competition out of his city, he did not need the equipment. So the manager gave him a deal. If you buy our equipment for, let's say, at 3 times the price, we can say in the contract that we will not make business again in this city. In just 2 hours, I received calls and emails on my first company for a credit for that equipment and blah blah. I knew he was out of money because he spent a lot on his future wedding with my ex-wife. I've sent him a contract. Based on our evaluation, the equipment is not worth that money, so He will need to give us a guarantee, his company, and he is not allowed to sell any equipment or part of his company until he pays everything back. And if he is behind in payment for 6 months straight, I get all of it. Also, in the contract, I stated that the credit company will buy that equipment directly. Basically, I just gave myself my money, and I made sure every single word of the contract is legal and is a deal good enough for him to take it. Later that same day, he sent me the signed contract. Now, normally, he should be able to pay for everything, even if the clients he hoped he will get from this company leave-in are non-existent. He still should be able to pay if he gives me around 80% of his company income for the next 5 years. Fast forward a bit. On the day of their wedding, I go to give them an envelope. In my country, you give money in envelopes as a wedding gift. He starts to laugh at me and tell me to get out cause I am not invited and he doesn't need my money. I smiled and I told him to open it. He looked inside then. He was expecting to come to court next week. He laughed and asked, "What is this?" And I told him, "See you in court. Enjoy your wedding night." Next time he came, I was suing him for child support. As I said, in my country, if you are aware that you have a child and refuse to go to the hospital to recognize him, you are no longer the father. But you are still forced to pay child support and is actually at an increased rate because you tried to dodge responsibility like running from a car accident scene. He did not want to pay. So he tried to say that he wants a child or co-custody, that he's a biological and blood and blah blah. This made me happy because I wanted to drag the trial as much as possible to drain him of all his money. But I couldn't after the judge saw all his declarations during the divorce trial. She ended the trial really fast and forced him to pay 40% of his and his company income from the time the child was born until he will finish college or I get married. And guess who did not manage to pay? And guess who is the new owner of his company? Now I don't work anymore, but I just run his company and spend almost all my time with my child. Update. A lot of people ask me about the child and the fact that I am not a bio father. I don't plan to hide from my child that I am not her bio father. We will talk about this when the time comes. In high school maybe, or around that age. Until then, I will try to be the best friend and paternal figure I can be, and if my child decides to go to the bio father, then I will not have any objection. Deceive into bonding? I need this child more than you think. After all that happened, I don't want a relationship anymore. And I'm very lonely and being financially free. I have no purpose in life anymore. And about the statistics, yes, statistics do not lie. And I did punish paternity fraud. But I did punish the idiot who did it, not the innocent child. I harass him every month if he is one day late on child support, and I have a lawyer on payday just to mess with him and scare him with another court call. I do not care about every man and blah blah. I take care of myself and my child, and other people are not my business. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.